Pay to participate fees for the 2021 school year.
There was a recommendation by some board members submitted about taking a look at the pay to participate fees, since activities will look differently in the 2020-2021 school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Historical fees are presented. We also discussed this at the Board Finance Advisory Council. Just because of some of the activities moving, some are being done virtually. We're going to try to do some in person. Some are being postponed till spring. Sports seasons have been curtailed and also extended over 4 seasons. So one of the recommendations here would be to revise the payment schedule specifically for 2020 and 2021. We want to make clear we're not amending the schedule forever. It's just for this school year. And Kristen, you want to go into a little more detail on that?
Sure. So currently, as you can see, we charge $200 for the first sport. The second sport is $150, and the third sport is $100. Performance activities such as like the fall play or the musical are $75, and a competitive activity like chess team we typically like to use, that would be $100. On April of this year, the board has already approved to cap these fees for each individual student at $350. So in discussing this with the Financial Advisory Board, due to all of the factors that Dr. Skinkis was mentioning, we would like to propose a recommendation that the first sport be $100, the second sport be $100, the third sport $100, and now looking at this, in theory, the fourth sport would be $50 if we're reaching our cap, or you could say $100, doesn't matter. But in theory, someone could participate this year in 4 sports. And then the performance activity down to $25 and the competitive activity for $50. We still would institute the cap at $350. And then also, if a sport or activity does not have an official contest due to the pandemic, the district at that point would issue a refund. So let's say basketball has had practices, but then their entire season gets canceled because of COVID and they haven't had a contest, then we would go back and refund that fee. One of the reasons too we wanted to lower the fee is because that would account for if a student had to miss 2 weeks of their season because they had COVID or they had close contact. They would still be participating, and so there still should be a fee, but we wouldn't have to go running around issuing refunds per individual students nearly as much if we took that into account, as well as, like Dr. Skinkis said, the shorter seasons and the virtual meetings, and just the slightly different experience for the performance activities as well.
So can I ask, if we ever get back to in-person learning, this would remain the same though, right? Like the sports schedule set, no matter what, if we go back to in-person learning?
Yes.
Or the performance schedules or any
Correct.
of those things you just spoke of?
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna move football back to fall.
Well, yeah, because that's IHSA, but some of these other performance activities, competitive activities.
I would hope we would move as much as we could if we went back, if we went back to regular school and there was a vaccine. In January, we'd want the play to go back to normal, right?
Yes,
I wouldn't.
but for this year, we had talked in the Finance Council, though, I think her question is like, well, if all of a sudden we do go back to in-person and they could run the musical like normal in the spring, would we shift back to the old pay?
Right, like this
We
would
thought for
stay.
this year, because
No, I would
parents
just
and
leave it.
families were impacted also with
Okay,
job loss and layoffs and things like that,
okay.
that it might
It's been
serve
a
better.
tough year on the community, and I think
absolutely.
Laura exercised that very well earlier. That, the community is suffering. And what we can do to help the community to 2 more activities, that's a positive. We want the kids to be as engaged as possible with each other, and we don't want money to get necessarily in the way. We are running a $2 million deficit.
It's 2.1.
It's 1.6. I did exaggerate it, I know.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions?
It's temporary.
Yeah,
This
it's
would be
just
for the 20,
COVID year.
yeah, I think when and if the board takes, I think it spells out for the 2021 school year.
Okay. Yes, that is in the resolution. I just want to say it again.
Yes, it would just be for this school year until we can get back to some normalcy. Kristen, I thought there was one question submitted from Ms. Zalis about paid participation fees and the amount to the budget or anything. Is there a general summary you can provide on that or a response to that?
Sure, I have some general information. I'm not sure exactly what information the board was looking for, but all local fees, which include not only just these fees, but course fees as well as gate admission. So any sort of local revenue that we have, age group gymnastics, food service commission, all of that is 7% of our budgeted revenue for this year. And if we just look at parent fees, so that includes athletics, activities, course fees, anything that, parents have to pay for a student participating in something. This year is approximately $980,000, and so that's about 4.5%. And then of the fees collected this year, we've currently collected 71% of those fees. A majority of those fees do come in at residency. We collected $627,399 at our annual residency event. And then since then, we've collected an additional approximately $90,000. And that is because if parents don't pay fees or get on a payment plan by September 30th, there is a late charge. And so, we certainly communicate that as often as we can. Having something approved tonight and having some direction for the board would be really important because a lot of the fall sports have begun and they end at the end of October. And so we really want to be able to have something in place for that fall season so that we can move forward with that. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now, waiting for a decision for the board.
So that did answer my question. I think it was just, I wanted to make the point that this is an offset to the cost of running these programs. And we've said in this room how important it is to have these, supporting programs available for our students during these uncertain times. And so making them, I think Wes said it well, making them available perhaps to more students or people who, may be hesitating for whatever reason to sign up for that second sport or chess club or whatever example you want to use. I think this allows us to broaden the base a little bit for this year. And yes, only for this year, I would suggest.
Any other thoughts?
Anything?
I just think that you might have to deal with giving refunds for the parking passes, because I believe that kids did pay for that.
So in the business office, we're not issuing any refunds at this point until we see how things play out, because the last thing the business office wants to do is issue refunds and then have to backtrack or then issue a second refund or a third refund. So we're well aware of that, but we're kind of waiting to see how things play out before we issue any refunds. It's just too early at this point,
Yeah.
but we're well aware that parking would be something that would need to be issued a refund.
And I just have one more thing. So I just wanted to confirm this. So if there's a competitive club like chess club or Model UN, if they had no conferences, would they be issued a refund?
One contest.
Okay.
So
Yes,
if
so
Mr.
like-
Monty sets up a chess match with Fenton, then that's your official contest. There's no, okay?
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a state series, doesn't have to be a full conference slate.
I understand.
We're tying this to the same language we use with the teachers on how we're paying stipends out.
All right,
All right, shall I?
go Mona.
Okay, Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the revised pay to participate fees for the 2020-2021 school year as presented in the September 8th, 2020 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second, Ms. Zalis.
Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes.